Well, hello and welcome. I'm Peasant, and this is going to be another Spirit Island Zero run. So it's a difficulty 0 aimed at beginners kind of run where I over-explain things slightly, depending on your point of view. And first, I'm going to look at this spirit we have in front of us, Vital Strength of the Earth, in kind of very general terms, and then we'll kind of look at the actual playthrough. And thanks everyone for your feedback. Any more feedback, very much welcome. What am I putting down below? So thanks Mateus, Enrico, Hibben, Brian, Endy, and SDM for all your feedback. Very much appreciated. All right, so Vital Strength of the Earth. Let's just look at their player board. Let's not look at the board, at the actual map. We'll just look at this first. So what do we see? We've got an energy track 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. This is obviously, well, it's not obvious, but this is a good energy track. Look at that, marvelous. But this player's track is a little bit suspect. You've got to actually place 2 presents to get your second play, which is a little bit grim. You almost always are going to want 2 plays at some point. But yeah, this kind of makes you this actual track makes you think, well, major powers are probably more my bag. So you definitely want to be looking towards major powers. And if you actually look at the hand, you've actually these are kind of expensive cards and maybe slightly overcosted. 3 is you could get a pretty powerful effect for 3. But yeah, so you also notice that every single one of your growth options places presence, but the one that you really need to plan for is this: gaining a power card is a 0 range presence placement. So you can use that to turn a presence somewhere on the map into a sacred site, which is obviously useful, but you need to, it's ideal to plan for this. Now, the other bonus of this spirit is this here, Earth's Vitality. Defend 3 in every land where you have a sacred site. So, the benefit of that is that will effectively defend you from, a fair number of early game threats, or just, threats that haven't built up much. And in fact, with the map behind that we'll be looking at in a second, we'll actually see a useful place to use this. So the other thing to look at is, of course, the range. And with most spirits, you don't want to reclaim ever. With this spirit, because you're still placing presence, that's actually it's not such a big deal. It's also your 2 range presence placement. So it's not, you don't have the same, it's not so miserable to reclaim with this spirit compared to others. And then we've got this innate here. This gift of strength is arguably a trap. Because you're mainly wanting to go major powers rather than accumulating a nice hand of minor powers to do repeating. So unlike River that we looked at last time, where you've got a innate that you definitely want to build towards, and you have a hand of start cards that you almost definitely want to keep. This is not the case with this spirit. So yeah, this is a distraction. If you can get this, it's it's okay. Obviously, repeating powers is pretty good, but this is kind of a distraction, so watch out for that. And then we've got the start cards here, and you'll notice, of course, that pretty much everything is defensive. Well, this is defensive. Skipping all actions for the invaders is defensive. Guard the land, defensive. Rituals of Destruction is another kind of overcosted and slightly bad card. So probably you want to forget this first when you're gaining your mages. Draw of the Fruitful Earth is actually kind of useful because it's a slow phase gather power. So you can actually use it to kind of respond to the invader action. So if the invader explores and something, you can then pull those individuals out of the land they've just explored into, preventing that whole build chain. So we'll probably get some use out of that. Hopefully we'll get some use out of that. So skipping all actions in target land this turn, people often think of this as another a key one to forget, though it does have its uses. Yeah, so don't get too attached to these cards. I'd say it's so very different to River in that regard. Yeah, so I feel like that's enough generality for now. So let's actually look at the board position. So we've got our opening Explore here, which is in the sand. So we've got an opportunity to use this Earth's Vitality here, but not for a while, because it's a build this turn, but next turn this build will of course become a Ravage. So if I place a Sacred Site in here, then I can actually use this Earth's Vitality ability here to defend there, because a Town plus an Explorer will be 3 incoming damage, and this Sacred Site will provide with 3 defense, which is obviously it's a bit more than we need. So I don't want to be. So I know that at some point I'm going to want to gain power cards. So I'm going to make a decision now to gain it next turn. This is also kind of standard-ish opening for this spirit, which is to maybe go on this first and then this later on. So I'm actually going to place my presence in here, but that's mainly because I'm thinking about next turn and placing a sacred site in here. So that's going to be my first call. And then we've got the decision of what track to go with. And I'm actually going to go with the energy track here. But you could go with either. I mean, I am planning to unlock this as soon as possible, but I'm not likely to actually have powers that I want to play straight away. So I'm going to go with this track. This might be a bit oblique, but that's what I'm doing. There you go, beginners. Enjoy this useful feedback. The nice thing about having the extra energy in advance is that it gives you flexibility. All of these powers, apart from draw, are pretty expensive, so you don't necessarily. You kind of need to be building up your energy for when you have multiple plays. So now we've got a card to pick. So we've only got the one play, and so we could play any of these. Let's actually have a look and see if there's anything worth doing. So I'm probably going to play Draw of the Fruitful Earth, mainly to save up energy, because next turn I'm going to gain a major, and that might be quite expensive. So, I mean, in theory, we could do something like prevent this build here. I mean, we could do that in theory, but I'm actually just mainly going to go with this, and largely just to save the energy. And the value of this, as I've already mentioned, is that I could gather up some explorers that are going to explore somewhere. So they're inevitably going to explore in some of these places, and actually this should be pretty good wherever they explore, because I should be able to just drag them into a land they don't really want to be in. So let's just move on there. So yeah, that's my overall plan with this. Is less obvious. The main, less like specific. It's more like you will gain major powers, and that's the plan. Okay, so we've got our draw of the Fruitful Earth. So if I was to use that in this space or this space, I would be... Well, actually, there's already a town in here, but I can easily prevent this build here just by using this. I may well do that. The other thing I could do is gather, because it also gathers Dahan. So I could gather some Dahan in here for the Ravage next turn. So this is what I've been planning for. So on my next growth phase, I'm going to use this, place a 0 range presence, and I'm going to place it in here with this other presence to make a sacred site, which will grant me this 3 defense from Earth's Vitality. So if I bring more Dahan in there, on the counterattack they will destroy everything instead of just the town. So I'd basically be doing that to destroy an explorer. Or I can gather this person away from there and actually just prevent a whole build chain, which is much better. So, and I'm going to drag them in here, because this is nice, because I don't really want to be sticking them in lands that are empty, because it's just kind of helping my opponents, the invaders, by just spreading them around a bit. And if I can kind of centralize them in a land like this, it's kind of good, especially as this spirit, because I've got things like Year of Perfect Stillness that just solves a space, and also to some extent guard the healing land. If a land already has Blight on it, I can just remove the Blight before the Ravage. The value of that is that generally a bit of Blight going down doesn't really matter, but Blight going down on top of Blight, it really does matter, and this fast phase Blight removal will just solve that problem by removing the Blight before the next Blight is placed on. So that's my thinking there. So I could drag these Dahan in here, but I'm not confident I can look after them, so I'm not going to. A bit sentimental. So you'll notice here that there's this card which is Destruction. I've not talked about it at all. That's because I'm going to forget it the first thing I do, because it's kind of overcosted, it's kind of contrived to actually use, and yeah, so that's why I've not talked about it. So yeah, I'm not going to gather any Dahan in there. Okay, so we're back to the growth phase. So my plan, I'm going to keep on with it, which was to add a presence in here to make a sacred site. So this Ravage, we are going to let Blight, unless, well, it depends what we draw in our when we gain a power card. If I don't gain anything that's particularly... I mean, I may yeah, if I gain something that I don't want to play necessarily this turn, then I may actually use Year of Perfect Stillness in here. Maybe. We'll see. And yeah, we'll get to talk about power cards now. So, going to go straight in with a major. And of course, you want to pick your card first because you might want to place the presence somewhere as a result. Like, for example, I might actually want to place this presence here. Oh, sorry, this presence here, because I might need a sacred site for targeting. I mean, although obviously that wrecks our plan because we need that sacred site here to prevent this blight going down. So, we're getting a major. And what do we actually... So, we're in an interesting position. We're not too worried about matching the icons on our innate. So unlike a lot of spirits that will want to match the icons on their innate, that's just a kind of a bonus that we might want. So we're very much judging these on their own merits. One thing to think of though is that we're unlikely to have vast amounts of plays. That's just kind of how it rolls. You know, max 4. So we don't really want to be going with powers that have a lot of the threshold effect is going to require a lot of card plays, but unfortunately these all require 3 card plays, these ones, so actually that's not too much of a factor. Obviously the elements on the cards we already have might be relevant if we're actually looking to trigger thresholds. So for example with Vigor, with Year of Perfect Stillness we are getting a sun, yellow sun icon, but it's still not ideal. So we're probably just going to be judging these on their merits. I know it's disgusting, but sometimes we have to do these things. So we're going to have the energy to play any of these this turn. Just going to hide that for a second. We could just prevent this Ravage here using the Year of Perfect Stillness, just with making the invaders skip all their actions. Which is okay. It's okay. We're definitely placing this presence in here, though. I mean, as we're going to have a card play, yeah, we could just do that. The other thing we could think about is actually, can we just play an offensive card this turn? I mean, so we could use, say... well, any of these to just do some damage right now. Vigor the Breaking Dawn is a pretty useful one, and now, of course, if these Dahan were in here, I could have maybe done something with that immediately. Jungle Hungers obviously destroys all towns and explorers, and this early on it actually might be pretty good, but it is a slow power, so they will have built a city in here by the time... But by the time the build phase comes around, so we won't be able to clear this tile. However, it is in a sacred site, so we will be solving that problem. The other thing that's interesting is that we basically, all of the map is adjacent to a forest here, so we'll be able to use Jungle Hungers kind of anywhere that we are. We're unlikely to get this threshold effect for a while though, because yeah, it needs, as all of these do, they need 3 of an element involved there. Winds of Rust and Atrophy is really good, but again it's a defense power. So with this spirit we start with some pretty okay defense stuff, so we definitely want to be going with something offensive. Vigor is kind of good. It's kind of good. So I'm here just trying to crunch out what's going to be useful. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I actually think I'm going to go with Jungle Hungers here. We could, in theory, keep our Rituals of Destruction, but I'm not going to do that, even though it does have matching icons, and that's just because it's not a card that I value. And these are cards that I do, so bye-bye Rituals. I could of course forget Draw of the Fruitful Earth from my discard pile. This is actually pretty useful. It's surprisingly useful. Okay, so we're going to start going down the plays track now. And that's because we just need more plays. We can't be struggling with just the one. So, but we do know where we're placing it. We're placing it in here to get the sacred site, to get our defend 3. So that's fine. And now we've got a choice. We could prevent this ravage using Year of Perfect Stillness, which is okay. Or we could jungle hungers and destroy some stuff. I mean, they're both reasonable. I think I'm going to go with jungle hungers here. Yeah, I think I am. So I think, yeah, I want to avoid the pitfall of just not playing much offense, which is very easy to fall into with this. So we've let a Blight go down. I say we. I've let a Blight go down. And then now we've got the Ravage in this space, and I've got the Defend 3 from my innate. So I'm going to fight back, destroy a town. And now we have a Wetland Explorer. Okay, so this is the one land I can't target with Jungle Hungers, but I hope we will be just gaining lots and lots of major powers. So the nice thing here is that if I Jungle Hungers in here, then this space is now dealt with, because I've got Defend in 3 there because of my Sacred Site. So we've just kind of solved that problem. This of course isn't a problem because we prevented the build. And we have these builds here. And yeah, so we don't have to worry about the Ravage this turn. It'd be nice to do something about these builds. Would be nice. This, of course, and maybe actually what I want to do is to very deliberately place a Sacred Site in here. Just so that this Ravage doesn't matter. That's a kind of acceptable thing to do. We can actually plan to next turn use Guard the Healing Land. So the great thing about this is, as I've already mentioned, the fast phase Blight removal. And the Defend 4, which basically will mean that this land, so it's going to build a town this turn, then it's going to be attack 3 with the town the Explorer on the next turn. So if we plan to use Guard the Healing Land in there, we can actually be up. We'll actually have a healthier island than we started. So I think I'm going to plan to do that next turn. And I'm going to let my presence sort this tile out. So, but what am I actually going to play this turn? See, here's something. I maybe I actually don't want to do that because I don't really have something I want to play this turn. But sitting a turn out isn't actually as bad as you'd expect. But it's interesting with the Spirit because some of the usual things you're concerned with, like prioritizing placing presence, for example, it just isn't an issue because you're always placing presence. It's just how you are. See, I would love to gain the power card this turn, but I wouldn't be doing anything about this space here. So I think I will go with this option, and we're going to go down the plays track and maybe not play anything at all. Let's see. Let's see about this. Okay, so we've got a nice bank of energy here, and we have cards. I mean, I could just use this to remove some Blight, but I've definitely got a use for this next turn, so I'm not going to do that. I could Year of Perfect Stillness. I mean, so I could, as an alternative to defending in here with Presence, I could Year of Perfect Stillness this turn. Actually, maybe I like that a little better, because I think I would like to get another major power. But what would I actually forget? I guess it depends what I draw. If I was to draw, if I had a new major power that was really good, I could just forget Year of Perfect Stillness. And then I could make a Sacred Site in here. Obviously, it's not going to do anything particularly. I think I am going to do that. So let's just undo and go back to here. So I am just going to gain the power card this turn, I think. Yeah, I think so. So it's a 0 ranger, so I'm going to make a Sacred Site over here. Not much point having more than 2 presence in a space with this in this particular circumstance. And so yeah, of course we're going major. So one thing that you might not know if you're a newer player is that when you gain a major, you actually don't have to. You can forget the major you've just gained and just basically switch it out for another one. So no, that's not. I'm being misleading there. If you gain a major, you can forget that major and forget it instead of forgetting another power. So that's. So if I don't like any of these, I could just choose to not pick any of them. Right. So what have we got here? So Indomitable Claim is a great. It's a one of the most powerful mages, but for this spirit, even though it has icons that are kind of similar to ours, it's just more defend, and we really just need offense more than anything. That's what we dream of. Poison land. Wait a second. So poison land is mountain, plant, beast, and and the card we have in a discard card is also mountain, plant, beast. So we might even be able to get this threshold in the not too distant future. But let's have a look at this card in more detail. So we're not too worried about our innate because I think it's a bit. I've decided that it's a trap. It's not just me, but we do have. So this is a card that adds Blight. So there are a fair number of cards that actually add Blight, and they're not necessarily the most alluring, especially as a solo spirit. So if you're playing as the spirit on its own, and you have a smaller Blight pool, this is going to be way less appealing. So in this circumstance, if I play it, I'd probably be, I would be blighting the island, which is not generally what you want. This is a spirit that has a use for their presence, but this is quite a lot of damage. I mean, 7 damage, especially this early in the game, is pretty relevant. So, and this threshold is possible. Unlikely, but possible. Well, not likely soon, but 7 damage is a lot of damage. So what that might mean, going with Poison Land, is that I could use this to remove a Blight, and then I could use Poison Land to add to add it back. And 7 damage would be, say, enough to clear this space, which is our biggest built-up area. So I could see a value in that. Pillar of Living Flame, I'd also be potentially adding Blight, but it's only 5 damage. And because this requires 4 fire, we are very unlikely to ever have 4 fire elements, especially in solo where no other spirits are going to give us any elements. So I actually think I'm going to go with Poison Land here in this instance, and I am going to forget something. Well, we don't want to forget Guard the Healing Land now that we're going to start poisoning the land. And Jungle Hungers is also pretty nice, so I think I'm actually going to forget Stillness. Bye bye Stillness. Right, so maybe guarding the Healing Land is actually a bit of a waste, but we don't really want to blight the island if we don't have to. Yeah, so I think I am going to just take out this space here. I think that's going to be pretty good. But yeah, so this is a little bit funky. But yeah, so that's the trick with Blight's placing cards, is that obviously if you're about to, if playing the card would trigger you into the unhealthy island, you might not necessarily want to do it. So I think that's the thing to do here. Or I could remove the Blight from over here and just smash somewhere else. That could be a thing to do. So I was going to guard the Healing Land next turn, but that's easy. I can still reclaim. Might have a bit of a quiet turn next turn because I won't have much energy. Of course, with Poisoned Land, if my presence is in there, I will actually be destroying my own presence, which I don't really want to do. But I could just destroy this business in here. No, I think I am going to go with just clearing cities. Cities are a bit harder to clear than everything else, so if you have the opportunity, it's a good thing to do. So we can't quite clear this now, which is a crying shame. But I think I will still go with that. Or I could go with clearing this space here, and then we can worry about this in the future. The future. It doesn't even exist. Yeah, let's just smash this up a bit. Though, the other thing to think about is that I already have Jungle Hungers, and I could Jungle Hunger this soon. But no, I think getting rid of a city is worthwhile. So unfortunately we can't clear the space, and sometimes you're going to have the choice of destroying buildings or explorers, and most of the time it's going to want to be buildings, because of course the buildings grant you fear. Okay, so we now have 0 cards. Now I know that I blew SDM's mind when I said that just because you have no cards doesn't mean that you should reclaim. And that's often true, especially with spirits that have that don't have presence placement on all their actions, but we are almost certainly going to want to reclaim here. We've got a Ravage in here. This Ravage, yeah, we actually have a particularly important Ravage card that we need. So we are going to reclaim. And the card I'm talking about here is Guard the Healing Land. Because that just solves this card. And actually this solves this whole turn, because the Blight that would be here will end up over here, basically. And then we've still got a pristine island. Okay. So as you can see, we're glad that we took all those extra energy early on, because we're kind of a bit broke for energy now. And we weren't even trying hard to spend our money. So the reclaim here is our only +2 range presence. So in a solo, it's not so hard to get across the island. Obviously with a multi-spirit game with a bigger island, that's planning when to do this could also be valuable. So I'm again going to lean on my innate here, so to defend 3 in every land where I have a sacred site, and I'm going to plan to be in one of these lands next turn. So I think I'm going to be in one of the lands with Dahan, and I think it's going to be this one, because this is a land that's definitely worth defending, because it's got only 2 adjacent lands. So if this does Blight, it can be a tricky one in the longer term. And I'm going to keep going down the energy track here. And that's made just because I've got such an expensive hand, and that's generally what you want to do with this guy. See, I've only got 5 energy here. So we're guarding the healing land, so that's the fast phase Blight removal, and the defense in here. And then on the fight back, this space will be cleared. A Blight will go down here. That's okay though. And I've got this ability here, so I can think about positioning my Dahan for the future, and I'll talk about that a bit more when I'm doing it. Okay, so we're guarding the healing land in here, removing that Blight, and adding 4 defense. Oh, we've got a fear card. Each player removes an explorer or a town for a land where it is the only invader. So the thing to do there is prevent a build almost certainly. So we've this space we're partly dealing with. This space I'm probably going to want to use Guard the Healing Land in, maybe, because it's already got a Blight in it. Maybe I get rid of this one. Yeah, I think I'm going to get rid of this one. So the thinking here is this space is, if I'm going to use Guard the Healing Land and add Defend, then that's kind of dealt with this space. But I am mainly going off my gut here. You can't teach gut, you can only grow it. Dedication. Okay, so we're just juggling Blight around the island at this point. Okay, so we have Ravage build. We don't have a coastal wetland, so there's no kind of wetland. There's no thing where you have the same terrain twice in a row, and that can be interesting. It could be interesting. What it can mean is that that particular space is a bit more priority to deal with. Okay, so we've got coastal Ravage next turn. We're going to be placing a presence in here, possibly gaining a major, but there are already enough Dahan in there to wipe this space on the fight back, on the revenge, on the whatever the actual term is called. The counter Ravage. Counter Ravage? I don't know. It's something or other. But we might want to think about our Dahan placement. Now, Dahan placement is arguably one of the trickier things in Spirit Island. Thunder Speaker, very powerful spirit, revolves around Dahan, and the key, I think, to doing well with that spirit is knowing how to move your Dahan, and it's not necessarily obvious. But mainly, you're obviously thinking about thinking about placing them for Ravages, so for kind of retaliating on a Ravage. So dragging these guys in here would actually be pretty good, because then I get some value out of Guard the Healing Land. But I'm leaning very heavily on this card right now. I think having Poison Land in my as one of my cards is making that even more possible than it would usually be. And this spirit doesn't punish you so much for reclaiming a lot as others do. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah, so what I think I'm going to do is bring in a couple of Dahan into here, so that the defense becomes more valuable. And yeah, let's prevent this build too while we're at it. So I'm not going to bring this guy over because this guy is taken care of, well, will be taken care of, and then we'll bring in some Dahan. I think I like to leave these centralized, so it's a bit of a chess thing. So having centralized Dahan I think has some value, because then obviously they can get to other places a bit more effectively. Okay, so this turn we're going to have a ravage in all these coastal lands. So I am going to reclaim here and go do something offensive. Offensive. I think my pronunciation of that is a bit odd because of American football. That's what I'm blaming. So we're going to make a sacred site in here. So that's this land defended. And then I'm going to guard the healing land in here, which is going to defend and remove this blight. And then I've got to decide what I'm doing on the offense. Offense. So could think about poisoning some land. We could even poison. It's just, I'm adding more blight than the flipping invaders. So I could use it to just dislodge this. I mean, I could even smash this land. I mean, it would cause a cascade, which you probably don't want. But I think it's actually the only thing that's viable, that's actually going to do anything, that's going to help. Okay, let's think about positioning our Dahan. So we've got a ravage this turn, then we've got a build here. We might want to think about... So there's going to be a build, there's going to be a town and a city and 2 explorers. That's 7 damage incoming. So we might even be wanting to do this next turn. God, that's miserable. I'm tempted to just go with the smash, to be honest. Just go poison land, be like, I'm sorry. It's actually... We're going to have... We're still... The trouble... You don't generally want to do that. You don't want to blight the island more than you have to. But as I can't actually target jungle hungers anywhere, that's going to improve the situation. I suppose it might target an explorer, but that seems like a bit overkill. So I'm tempted to smash this land. Could be overthinking it though. That's possible. Yeah, I think I might be better to just smash this. Smash. As Peasant descends into the think tank. Oh dear. Or we can draw and think about... Interestingly, I could gather these 2 explorers out of here to reduce the damage next turn, and then we could lean on guard the healing land again. Ugh, horrible. I think I'm actually just gonna smash some stuff. I think that's what I'm doing. Okay, so we're gonna guard the healing land in here. So removing that blight, defending in this space, and then we've got this coastal ravage, which is fine. We're just kind of taking care of business there. Okay, so this is, we've got this mountain build. That's fine. This space is just dealt with. We don't need to worry about this at all. We can just forget that space even exists. And am I going to just smash this? Yeah, I think I am. Everyone knows that you just win the game if you just remove your own presence. And the reason I'm doing this is that I'm just making sure I'm doing damage. It's a very easy trap with this spirit to fall into, is to just not do enough damage. And I've blighted my own island. I don't care. It's fine. Probably don't want to lose much more presence than this though, because we are only ever placing 1 at a time. Okay, so we have no ravage to worry about. We've got this build and then a ravage, which we don't have to worry about. This we might want to worry about if we're into worrying about things. In fact, we just need to destroy this and then that's game, because we've got to terror level 2. So that's something I've not talked about a lot, which is actually the fear and terror and stuff like that. I've not actually talked about any of these. So there's multiple ways to win, and each spirit typically will have a different way. So for example, Bringer of Dreams and Nightmares is only ever likely to win by getting what some people call a Terror 4 victory, so just by earning all the cards in the fear deck. The spirit obviously is just very dependent on what they draw, but probably they're going to win by just destroying everything. So yeah, I mean, I could just try and close it out by going for a fast phase damage card. Is that actually the... I mean, we've actually got very little pressure on us this turn. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go with gaining a power card. I think we need another power card anyway. Just we're also, now that the island is blighted, we're free to just poison as much land as we like, which is obviously going to make everyone happy. Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with gaining a major, and we could lose draw or even jungle hungers, because we're not getting much use out of our jungle hungers, it turns out. Okay, so we've got some fast phase damage, and this is actually pretty good icons, I think, to go with what we've already going. Oh no, I'm just clearly out of my mind. So that is some fast phase damage, but it's not going to be enough to destroy a city. And that's, generally why you like to prioritize destroying cities, because they are a pain. There's a lot of powers that will destroy a town, but you need to get the big damage out to really do much about cities. This is a very powerful card, and it's just in its own right, because it solves any worries we might have about Blight cascades. So looking at the power choice here, as this spirit, we're in the weird situation of our innate is unlikely to line up for us. So we don't really think about that. We're thinking purely about practicality, and I guess also about what matches up with what we've already got. So yeah, looks like no fast phase win this turn. So I think I'm just going to go with Blazing Renewal here. And God, I'm tempted to forget Jungle Hungers, which pains me. Ooh, no, I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to plan to win in the Ravage phase. So I think I'm just going to not bother keeping Blazing Renewal. And let's just gain that there. And that's just to make a sacred site. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to plan to win on the Ravage phase. So we know that there's going to be a town built, and then it's going to be destroyed in next round's Ravage, when this next turn. And also we know there's going to be a Ravage here, so I'm actually going to set this up to win on the Ravage phase as well. So I'm going to play both of these. And I'm playing this to gather in these Dahan to finish off this job here. So obviously nothing in the fast phase, and we have a downward spiral. So it doesn't really matter what we destroy here. Except we don't want to destroy this one. This is the one we don't want to destroy. Or this one. Okay, so we've got a fear card that did nothing for us. Okay, well that's sorted that land. Okay, so I need to do these in the right order, because this will destroy all the huts in this space, so make sure I don't move my huts in there first. Damn it, this guy's shown up. Yes, we can still win in the Ravage, of course, so I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to drag in a couple of lads. I'm not going to drag in any explorers, because actually I could drag in one explorer, but I'm just not going to bring in any for clarity. Okay, so we're back to the fast phase, and hopefully it can be seen here that there's going to be, whatever I do, there's going to be a Ravage, and in that Ravage my presence here is providing this defense, and then the city's going to get destroyed. So so I'm just going to do nothing. I'm just going to do nothing because there's no need. So you lose the presence. Let's just use this one, and then in the Ravage, we've won. So there you go. That was a Spirit Island 0 run. It got a bit more cryptic than I expected, going with all the Blight placement, but I hope that was helpful. As before, any feedback, likes, comments, subscribes, that kind of stuff, but especially feedback, because I'm trying to improve these videos over time. So yeah, thanks so much for being here, and I'll catch you next time.